Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. In a week that saw the landmark submarine deal signed by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese with US President Joe Biden and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in San Diego, voting intention for the Albanese government was up 1.5% to 58%, well ahead of the coalition on only 42% on a two-party preferred basis. We often see an increase in support for government of the day when the Prime Minister is on the international stage, and support for the Labor government has now increased by 3.5% during Albanese's time overseas in India and the US. In further good news for the government, the Roy Morgan Government Confidence Indicator improved this week, up 3 to 96. But despite the improvement, government confidence is stuck well below the level of 100. That's that neutral level of 100 for a fourth straight week. More Australians say the country's heading in the wrong direction, 43.5%, than the right direction, 39.5%. However, the news is not all good. Consumers' view on things economic, consumer confidence, was down for a fourth straight week, down by 0.5 points to 76.5. The lowest it's been since early April 2020, at the start of the pandemic. Consumer confidence has now been below 80 for 3 straight weeks and has averaged below 80 since the start of February. Warning bells for a potential recession. We at Roy Morgan have been watching the mortgage market carefully as the consumer confidence of those people with mortgages dropped in response to increasing interest rates. And it's down again this week, down by 4.3 to 69.7, below 70 for only the second time since the Reserve Bank began raising interest rates. Now inflation expectations. Overall inflation expectations were up by 0.2% to 5.9% this week, the highest it's been since mid-December. So this essentially means Australians are expecting inflation to increase by 5.9% per year over the next 2 years. The 4-weekly average, smoothing across the last 4 weeks, has also now increased to 5.5%. The increases in this measure will be a concern for policymakers. Inflation expectations peaked at 6.8% in early November, or at least they appeared to have peaked. They'd since dropped significantly during December, January and February, so the latest increases are worrying. People are obviously anxious, consumer confidence low and dropping, and growing fears about inflation. Now, renters have the highest inflation expectations at 6.4%, and these people are probably least able to afford increases in basic costs of their living. But the biggest increase in inflation expectations this week was among those paying off their home, people with mortgages. That was up 0.6% to 5.7%. You'll recall these are the same people that had the biggest drop in consumer confidence. The recent instability in financial markets has many in media speculating that the Reserve Bank may pause on further interest rate increases. However, while inflation remains at a 32-year high, this would be a risky bet. The next monthly ABS inflation figures are due out later next week, and will be closely watched to see whether the declines of recent months continue or whether the official measure increases once again. Now to New South Wales. Australia's largest state of New South Wales goes to a close-run election this weekend, and we at Roy Morgan have of course been keeping an eagle eye on the contest. The incumbent Liberal National Government, led by Premier Dominic Perrottet, is the only remaining Liberal-led government on the Australian mainland, and it faces an uphill battle to win this week's election. They're much more distrusted than Chris Minns' Labor opposition, and distrust played a pivotal role in Scott Morrison's downfall only 10 months ago. Our latest Roy Morgan poll in New South Wales, conducted in mid-March, shows the re-election prospects for Premier Dominic Perrottet are decreasing. The ALP, led by Opposition Leader Chris Minns, is now on 53.5%, up 1 percentage point since late Feb, and clearly ahead of the Coalition on 46.5%, obviously on a two-party preferred basis. So this result represents a big swing of 5.5 percentage points to the ALP since the last New South Wales election in 2019. But despite such a swing, this still wouldn't get Chris Minns elected. Our poll shows the most likely outcome is a minority Labor government. And even that would be possible only with the support of the Greens and 1 or 2 independents. This outcome would catapult the Greens into the very powerful position of holding the balance of power in the new Parliament. A very powerful position indeed. On a personal level, the latest Roy Morgan poll shows 51% of electors disapprove of the job Dominic Perrottet is doing as Premier, up 4% since February, while 49% approve. Comparing the two alternative leaders shows a slim majority of 52% of electors now say they consider that Minns would be the better Premier, compared to 48% who prefer Dominic Perrottet. These headline results show we may be set for a long night this weekend when vote counting begins in the New South Wales election, although Labor clearly has the edge over the LNP heading towards polling day. To dig deeper into what's driving voters in New South Wales, what issues are at the forefront of their minds and how they really feel about the two leaders, Dominic Perrottet and Chris Minns, Roy Morgan has just released a special, comprehensive and compact webinar on the contest. The Trust and Distrust in New South Wales Politics webinar. It's available now and is essential viewing for anyone looking for a deeper insight into what is set to happen in New South Wales as the state goes to the polls this weekend. Click the link below this video to view the special New South Wales election webinar. And that's a wrap for this week. Subscribe free to our Roy Morgan YouTube channel for all the latest political, economic and market research data and insights. Thanks for listening today, and I look forward to bringing you the latest data on consumer confidence, inflation expectations and voting intentions at the same time next week. Take care. See you next Tuesday.